Two words: overwhelmed singer. If you've ever gone down the YouTube rabbit hole of singing tips, you've probably thought, do these little micro tweaks actually make a difference? So I got a really terrific comment very recently. It said, Dan, could you please make a video on 3 to 5 things that make the greatest impact on your voice? Because so many videos focus on tiny things and the listener can hardly tell the difference. Basically, what moves the needle, what doesn't. So I loved that comment, and today I want to do a zoom out and show you 5 things that, in my experience, make a very large, noticeable impact on your singing voice. It's not a systematic ordered laundry list. It is 5 interrelated things based on understanding the systems of your voice that all impact each other. So, and you'll see the more intimate you become with the systems of your voice, you're going to see how skeleton and body shape impacts breath, impacts phonation, impacts resonant shape impacting phonation, impacting the pressure you feel back down in the body. And so all of these different factors, how articulation can affect color. So all of these little things that affect each other, and you're going to get a sense of, oh wow, I have understanding of how these things interrelate. Then I have the tools and the clarity with which I can experiment and find things out on my own, and that's very empowering. So I want to teach you to fish so that you can feel confident when you're alone, making sounds, finding things out on your own. And before I start, hey there, if you're new here, my name is Dan Calloway. I teach musical theater, voice, and vocal pedagogy at Boston Conservatory at Berkeley. More than 25 years kicking around on equity stages, making all kinds of vocal mistakes in front of paying audiences, and more than 15 years helping singers get to work on Broadway, national tours, in the regions and around the world. And I'm very glad you're here with me today. So let's start with breath and phonation. And right away, I want to say this is a very chicken and egg alternating situation. Your breath affects how your vocal folds vibrate, and how your vocal folds vibrate also affects how your breath behaves. It is a constant exchange of information between these two events. So if I phonate in a really breathy way, you're going to hear that air is going to move through very quickly. The phonatory pattern is very open. My folds aren't together a lot, and so air is going to move very fast. The muscles of my torso are moving air out very quickly. If I phonate in a very pressed way, my air is going to move very slowly, and you're going to see that that pattern is very different. So that vibrational pattern is also going to affect how air is moving through. Therefore, it's having a retroactive effect on support. And when my folds are vibrating in a more balanced way, kind of like a 50-50 situation of together and apart, your breath is going to feel more balanced. It's going to come through. But I could be playing a character who has a breathy voice. I could be playing a character who has a more pressed situation. And there are other coordinations where it's a little bit more closed phase is what I'll call it, or more density in the vibrational pattern. And then most of the time we're going to be dealing with this very Goldilocks balanced situation. So rather than thinking, I just need better breath support, the real question is, how are my breath and phonation working together? How are they interacting? So I have a whole video called The Phonation Fix that explores this in depth, and I will link that in the description if you want to go further on that. And that talks about this very thing, how phonatory pattern has a direct impact on your breath management. And there's one other thing I want to say about this. Phonatory pattern has an effect on the breath. The breath has an effect on the phonatory pattern. If I'm using a lot of breath, and if I'm providing a lot of subglottal pressure to the folds, they are going to start to try to manage the air pressure coming up beneath. Or if I let them blow open, so that's going to be a different thing. There are a couple of videos where I talk directly about this, how breath movement finishes the closure of the folds and how breath movement affects the vibration of the folds. So I'll link those two in the description. Okay, so number 2, I would say overall vocal tract shaping. Crucial, crucial, crucial. Now, once phonation is happening, the sound immediately travels right into the vocal tract. So imagine you've got the vocal folds here, and then just directly north of your vocal folds, you have the tube of the pharynx. That is where the vast, vast majority of your primary resonance happens. It's the most immediate source of resonance. So I'll often point like right here in front of my ear, pointing right into the middle of my head. That is the source of the majority of your resonance. And here's where shaping matters. I have this whole playlist on the vocal tract where I break down all the different elements of the tract. So your tract is the area from the vibrational point here, your larynx, where your folds are, all the way to the opening of your mouth, or all the way to the opening of your nose, depending on if you're sending sound through the nose or sending sound through the mouth, okay? So just a quick little breakdown. A low larynx is going to give you lower frequencies. A high larynx is going to give you higher frequencies. And then I'm going to go into the relationship of the back of my tongue to the pharynx, okay? So the back of my tongue, that's the back of my tongue. This is the back of my pharynx. That narrowing capability is crucial. And I think of all the parts of the tract, I feel like this is a very crucial aspect of understanding in the vocal tract, because this narrowing point provides all kinds of leverage. This narrowing point of the back of the tongue to the back of the pharynx, it is the key to crescendo, diminuendo, a more vibrant sound, a breathier sound, okay? It controls so many things, and it's the answer to so many questions. Anterior, posterior narrowing. I break that down in a couple of videos, one in the vocal tract series and another in my tongue part 2. So there's a tongue playlist as well. So it's got the more information on this anterior, posterior narrowing. So I would check that out, okay? If my tongue is far away from the pharynx, there's a very open tube. And if I move my tongue back a little farther, that's going to create more of a bottleneck of resonant information, and that is going to give me a little bit more vibrancy. So back of the tongue, what's going on in the pharynx itself? Is there constriction in the constrictor muscles, sort of like lateral narrowing? Is that free? Then we go to our soft palate. Is the soft palate lofted? Is the soft palate lower? So a lower palate's going to give me higher frequency. A higher palate's going to give me lower frequency. Then I'm going to the top of my tongue, its relationship to the roof of my mouth. Is my tongue, am I letting it be floaty and high in the mouth? That's creating more acoustic bottleneck. A lot of times you'll see this sort of spoon tongue going on, and that's often like root tongue wanting to pull the tongue down. Now look, spoony tongue is a choice you can totally make. You can totally make that choice as an acoustic shaper, but you have to have the option to do the spoony thing or to let the tongue pillow high. I often like to let my tongue pillow really high in the mouth. Again, I cover those in those tongue series videos. So that's my tongue's relationship to the hard palate. That's also where vowel is created. The top of my tongue, the dorsum of my tongue relating to my hard palate. Where it relates to my hard palate creates a vowel. More on that later. Then I've got my jaw. How open is my jaw? How closed is my jaw? Then I have my teeth and my lips and my cheeks. Larynx, anterior, posterior narrowing in the tongue. Pharyngeal management, soft palate. Top of my tongue relating to the hard palate. Jaw opening, lips, cheeks. Embouchure. All of these things are going to make a major contribution to what's going on in your resonant strategy. They all shape the resonant space. Remember, shaping the tract is not an isolated system. It directly influences phonation as well. There is a retroactive effect from the vocal tract to the phonatory system, okay? So registration, which we'll get into soon, registration is both a muscular and an acoustic event happening together. It's really mysterious and amazing. So your foundation, your body, your breath, that feeds into phonation, which then feeds into tract shaping. Tract shaping affects phonation. Phonatory pattern has an effect back on the breath system. So you can see how these parts are already interreacting always. I was teaching a lesson today, and this young woman who was working on A New Life from Jekyll and Hyde, and she was balancing so well, just calibrating how her tract was shaping the acoustic and how that acoustic feedback was giving her this amazing backward pressure that she was doing this amazing dance with. And it was great to see her really find that. So that's a really wonderful way to work. That's how you work in balance. You set up these acoustic barriers that you can then, I see you're dancing with them. You're sort of doing this sort of like weight sharing exercises where you're kind of leaning into these little barriers and bottlenecks that you're setting up that are very helpful for all of these systems, for your breath, for phonation, and for resonant shaping. So this is why I talk about the voice as a system of systems, because nothing operates alone. And the more you understand the systems of your voice, what each system does and how it contributes to the other systems, then you're in business. Then you can tweak one little thing. Like, I'm going to tweak something in my resonance. I'm going to see how that affects the other systems. I'm going to tweak something in my breath. I'm going to see how that affects the other systems. The other great news about this is that you can start almost anywhere. It's like you can lily pad. Like, okay, I'm going to check my body alignment and see what that does. I'm going to check this resonance shape and see what that does. It's going to affect another thing, and then you can go to another spot. So it's great news, even if, and that's the thing too, you often see when I teach teachers, they will have a completely different idea on where to start. And guess what? Most of the time, where they start works just as well as where I would want to start. And that's terrific news because all the systems of the voice interrelate. So that's wonderful to know. Because you're like, well, I can try this thing, and then if that's not working, I can move to another system and see how that affects things. So it's really great to know that you can you can hit the stream anywhere. Okay, so that's tract shaping. The next, point 3, is your registration awareness. Registration, the balance between what's often called chest or head, or what I like to call mode 1 and mode 2, because they're not separate planets. They are different vibratory patterns along one continuum. Again, they are not different worlds. They are different vibratory patterns along one continuum. So here's the important connection. Vocal tract shaping influences how you access your registers. So this is why I often will start lessons with modal yodels. So mode 2, just letting and starting to feel, oh, that gives my larynx ability to be free. My larynx is being affected by these vowel shapes. I'm noticing the retroactive effect of shape back to resonance. And then I'm also just noticing, hey, ah! What does that feel like with the body of the fold and the cover of the fold vibrating? That's mode 1, the body and the cover. Hey, ah! And then just the cover vibrating for mode 2. A lighter feeling, a lighter sensation. More head resonance, yeah, sympathetic resonance here. Hey, ah, ee! Hey, ah, ee, ooh! So just those yodels, just to feel the difference. And then, what does it feel like? What does it feel like to cross mode 2 as far down as I can? Hey. And then moving mode 1 up. Hey. Moving mode 1 up into higher ranges so that you're crossing the registration so that you see mode 2's ability to go quite low, mode 1's ability to go quite high, so that you see, okay, wait, they can live on the same frequencies, and feeling how there's a continuum along one pitch. You start to hear and feel your voice as one continuum of possibilities, rather than separate voices that you have to switch between. Then you really gain a lot of freedom in understanding that. And then, especially like say if you're a treble voice, letting your chest voice really live below G4 in that very speechy range, and then letting it freely change register when you move above G4 back up into mode 2. So just things like that are really helpful. Okay, so point number 4. All right, so we had breath, phonation into the vocal tract, talking about understanding and having clarity between modes 1 and mode 2. And for more clarity on those, just look for any of my videos on mix, where I talk about mix and how mix entails a continuum idea, where I have mode 1 and its densities. I can have a very high density mode 1, a low density mode 1. And then mode 2, I can have a very low density mode 2 into a high density mode 2. So my low density mode 1 and my high density mode 2 is where what we would call mix lives. Our registration understanding and our vocal tract understanding, they come together to create what we would call your resonance strategy. This is also where vowel tuning comes in. But vowel shape alone is not the shaper of resonance. You can have a certain kind of vowel that's shaped different ways based on different factors in your vocal tract. So resonance is shaped by, like I said, the entire tract. The tongue, the soft palate, the pharynx width, the laryngeal position, they all work together to create a resonance that suits the style you're singing. So I think about it, that's why we use color words a lot in describing singing. We use the language of art, like chiaroscuro, blending of color, light and dark, because that's how we're perceiving sound. We use these visual terms to describe sound because we are literally blending low frequencies and high frequencies to create this blend of frequencies that sound a particular way depending on what we're singing, okay? So our resonance strategy, that's going to be point number 4 to be thinking about. The resonance strategy is the outcome of the interrelationship between registration and tract shaping, and it's very flexible. The strategy for a Western classically informed Rodgers and Hammerstein ballad will be different from the resonance strategy for a rock and pop belt situation. Especially as theater singers or any kind of stylistic versatility that we have as singers, our resonance strategy is going to be changing, and that's depending on the identity of the song, the identity of the person singing the song, the point of view of the person singing the song. Always going to be shifting, whether we're in a theatrical production or on a concert stage. All right, so in point number 5, this overall idea of body relationship, body use, and dynamic alignment and ease. This is the one you want to really visit in a holistic, compassionate witness kind of way. Witnessing your body, alignment at ease, that sets the stage for everything else. So when your body is feeling rigid or locked, which it often is when we get scared, singing is scary. Let's go ahead and admit that to ourselves. Singing is scary, so we have to use our courage to share our song. So when your body is rigid or locked, your breath gets stuck, phonation gets strained, and resonance collapses. But when your body is balanced and dynamic, things start to flow. So if something is statically engaged, if something is wanting to lock up, we're going to add movement. And adding movement takes courage because, when we're scared, we want to be still, we want to be rigid, we want to hold, we want to freeze. So adding movement to something that wants to freeze takes some courage. It takes some courage, but you can be in control of letting things move. You can be in control of softening things up. So it's good. We are meant to have agency in things. It's a wonderful thing to be able to have a sense of control and choice in certain things. So I think, I have the choice to soften this up. I have the choice to feel my head aligning with my thoracic cavity aligning with my pelvis over my soft knees, my knees over the center of my feet. Those are really great ways to think about it. Sometimes even like a 10-second reset, a shoulder release, a quick body scan, a breath out. That can change the way your voice feels immediately. And as you're singing along, you can be like, okay, whoa, I'm feeling my ribs really locking. On my next breath, I'm going to let them open up. Or, whoa, I can feel my knees locked up, so I'm going to soften my knees. Or, okay, whoa, that breath is really feeling very tight. So, okay, on my next breath, I'm going to just try to soften my belly just a little bit. So all those little like moment by moment choices you can make. Body use. So you're always coming through what I call a neutral neighborhood of neutral. You're passing through that neutral neighborhood into dynamic alignment. If you're singing, you're moving. If you're alive, you're moving. So therefore, if you're singing, you're moving. All right. So that's body alignment and ease. That is sort of the overarching energetic body coming to play. So recap, the 5 things that make the greatest impact on your voice are your breath and phonation relationship, vocal tract shaping, the awareness of registration, the awareness of the continuum, where things are, your resonance strategy, how your registration and vocal tract shaping and breath come together to create the overall resonant picture, the overall color mix that you're working with, and then your body alignment and ease within all of that. And I will link in the description helpful videos that will take you deeper into all of these different areas. Notice these are not like random tricks, because a lot of times you'll use a random trick that'll work for that one song in that one instance, but then you get to another song with a different setup and that trick doesn't work at all. So that's because it's so hard. We're always looking for a magic bullet or something that always works. And singing just doesn't work like that because the body's dynamic and moving. Music is dynamic and moving. We're inside time. We're flowing in time. And so yeah, I remember when I first started to sort of let legato flow through me, I was very scared because of this sense of the loss of this idea of control or trying to pin something down or like hold a note. These ideas, oh man, I can still feel it in my body. Okay, this legato, this observation of a flow of time that just keeps going. So they are systems. We have systems that constantly interrelate. So when you work on your voice through this systems framework, everything really starts to click. It becomes clear. You're like, oh, my breath is affecting my phonatory pattern, my tract shape. Oh, that affects phonation. That's so crazy. Oh, what if I move my tongue here? What if I move my soft palate there? That's weird. Oh, how can I make up an exercise that's kind of fun to do that works that function? Then you can make up things on your own. If you can make a sound, if you can do something over and over, that's a sustainable thing that you can do, and it will have something to teach another thing. All sounds are on the table. If you want to go deeper into this understanding, that is exactly how I've laid out the resource library. So it is a clear systems of the voice framework. You'll find full lessons, exercises. We do Q&A sessions twice a month where we dig into all of these topics. You can ask me anything you want, and all the Q&As are saved, so you can go back if you missed them. You can watch them. So the link is in the description. Check that out. Would love to see you there. We've got a sweet, sweet group of people, supportive, encouraging. They ask great questions. And and so we're building that. And then any new course that I build, I'm working on one called the Voice Map that talks about how to understand the systems of your voice. That course is being loaded into the library as I build it. So the library is getting the first look at it. They're implementing the lessons, and they're getting back to me on what's helpful and what's not. So you can be part of that, and you'll just get access to all the courses that I create when you're in the library. Let me know which one of these 5 components of your voice system, which one you want to experiment with most, which one you might feel like you've neglected or not thought about before, which one did you get a light bulb on? Oh, wow, that affects that. I didn't really even think about them working together. Any kind of light bulbs you had or questions you have. I love answering questions in the comments when things need to be clarified. So this whole video was inspired by a question from a very kind commenter. I love being able to interact with you in that way. So yeah, please feel free to ask questions and let me know in the comments what's helpful, and let me know any questions you have from anything that I said. I'll link those in the description for various playlists and other links to go deeper on these 5 areas. Yeah, and right here I'll go ahead and put that vocal tract playlist. That's the most recent one that takes you through all the steps of the vocal tract, and so you can just choose which element you want to focus on. And like I said, it's like a lily pad. You can jump about anywhere. Most importantly, please remember there is objectively only one you, and somebody would love to hear the story only you can sing. Love much. Now go sing.